Hello guys. You are on the channel Alice Reddit Stories. Enjoy watching. Basically 4 years ago, I, F29, was supposed to be getting married to my fiance at the time, Jay. Everything was going perfect. I was in my dress, had my makeup on and taken pictures with my bridesmaids. I was pretty much ready to walk down the aisle when Jay's best man pulled me aside and said Jay was gone. He had gotten into a car and left, and no one was able to get a hold of him. I came home to our apartment and all his stuff was gone. He's been pretty much a ghost ever since he left me, and I had to force myself to move on. I ended up going on our honeymoon with my best friends, which was the best decision ever, and then put myself in therapy to heal the horrible trust issues I now have. I haven't heard from him once until today. I guess he got back in contact with an old mutual friend, who gave him my number. Jay texted me and said wants to meet up and apologize. He says he has a lot to explain to me about what happened that day. I'm torn. I swore Jay was a dead memory, but my curiosity and desire to get closure with him is pestering me. My current boyfriend supports me whatever I decide, and I feel out of respect to him and how wonderful he's been, I should ghost Jay. I'm very confused. I never expected to hear from Jay again. I have no idea what to do. Please help. Update. First off, I just want to thank everyone for the advice. I honestly wrote the post to just vent my frustration and confusion and possibly get advice. I honestly forgot about the post for a few days until my sister and I were talking, and she mentioned she saw a post from some girl getting left at the altar and ex showing up again years later. I told her it was mine, and she has been pushing me to do an update post. I figure it might be therapeutic to write everything down as final closing of the Jay chapter. This all happened 2 weeks ago. Against most of the advice, I did meet up with Jay. As a lot of you said, it did not add any value to my life. Also, it was part of a 12-step program and he was making amends. We met up at a park and my boyfriend came with me. He sat off to the side while Jay and I talked. I actually feel stupider after meeting with him. There were a lot of things in our relationship that would have had me out the door if I paid more attention and if he wasn't such a great liar. Basically, for the last year of our relationship, he was doing drugs and cheating on me. He had been struggling with his sexuality for years, and it's not surprising it ended up this way now knowing the truth. His family are incredibly homophobic and horrible people. I wanted nothing to do with them when we were together, but he insisted on them being around just for the big life events, like our wedding. The drugs were something to get him through the day and act like he was in love with me when he was actually in love with someone else. He had met his boyfriend at work and I had actually met him a few times when I'd drop off lunch for Jay. When our wedding approached, his boyfriend said he needed to choose and Jay chose him. So he packed his bags up and pretended everything was great until his boyfriend picked him up and they moved 2 towns over. Asked him if he was still with his boyfriend and he said no. He thought he could quit the drugs once he was free of his family and lying, but he couldn't. His boyfriend found out and left him. He kept going, getting high and hooking up with randoms. One of his regular hookups ended up overdosing while they were asleep in the same bed and died, and he realized he had to get sober. He apologized for not just being honest with me and leading me on like he did. He wished he could go back and be truthful because I would have been the most accepting of him being gay out of everyone. He said he missed me when he left because even though he didn't love me romantically, I was his best friend. It was a lot to take in. I told him while I'm glad he's okay and is doing better, I'd prefer for us not to have any contact moving forward, but I do forgive him. He said he understood and he was only in town for a few more days and he'd be gone for good again. I'll admit when I got home, I cried. My boyfriend held me and ordered me my favorite takeout. He's been really the best and didn't pressure me to talk about anything until I was ready. So if I got anything out of the worst day of my life, it's led me to who I'm with now. 5 years ago, right after my divorce, I met this woman at a concert. She was a bit younger than me, but we hit it off and she wound up going to a bar with me and my friends after that show ended. It was a fun night and we exchanged numbers. At that time, I wasn't really using any social media except FB, and that was just to keep up with my kids' school and activities. So, we never friend, just text each other. At first the texts were casual. A little flirty every once in a while, but nothing to suggest there was any interest in anything sexual. Turns out she only lived 20 minutes from me, but we never met up or saw each other. After a couple weeks of texting, we figured out we were both going to be at the same concert again, but this time in another city. It was a guy weekend for me and a girl weekend for her. So, her and her friends met me and my friends before the concert. We did a little bar hopping together. Her and her friends were younger than me and my friends, and I was the only single one amongst my friends. We, my friends and I, noticed none of these girls were wearing wedding rings. So, we assumed they were all not married. They were all younger than us, and there didn't seem to be much interest outside of being friends. That was fine. At the time, I wasn't interested in a relationship anyway. After going to a couple bars, we went to the concert. Her and her friends had floor tickets and me and my friends had seats. I thought that was the end of it for that night. After the concert, me and my friends went to a bar and then to our hotels. Right after I got to my room, this woman texted me and asked if I wanted to come have some more drinks with her. She was at a place close to my hotel, so sure, I agreed. I went back out expecting to see her and her friends, but it was just her. I don't even think I finished my drink by the time we were heading back to my hotel. It was awesome. When we got back home, she started coming over to my house during the day. I have a flexible job and most days work from my house. She travels around the area for her job, so she had time to come over during the day. She'd come over after my kids went to school and left before they got home. Some days she was at my house almost the whole time my kids were at school. Even if it wasn't my time with the kids, she was there during the same time. Never at night and never during the weekends. It was just a FWB type relationship. That was perfect for me. I was involved with my kids, even coaching 2 of their teams, so it never interfered with my time with them or my friends. Also, I wasn't looking for a relationship and definitely didn't want a relationship with someone that young that may want kids. I'm done having kids. I was upfront with her about how I felt, and she was fine with it. She said she wasn't looking for a relationship either. This went on for almost a year. Eventually I met someone, my now wife, and broke it off with her. She was fine with that too. We never text each other again. A year after I met my wife, we got married. 2 years ago, I met this woman again at a neighborhood gathering. Me and my wife were introduced to her and her husband by a friend of mine. They had recently bought the house right next to his. When we first saw each other, it wasn't awkward or anything. We just smiled and said hi. I told my wife about our past when we got home that night. My wife is very understanding. We both accept that we both have had past relationships. No big deal. Her husband turns out to be a pretty cool guy. He starts hanging out with my group of guys' friends and we become friends too. This year he joined one of my fantasy football leagues. So, he friends me on FB. After I friend him, he friends my wife. My wife takes a look at his profile and asks how long ago I was FWB with his wife. It was 5 years ago. She shows me a recent post that says he and his wife have been married 8 years. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel. There are many interesting stories ahead of you.